So, we have more Caitlin Clark drama. So, if you're unaware, the WNBA season kicked off and is actually doing fantastic. Caitlin Clark in the beginning of her rookie season, same with Angel Reese and a couple of other young, inspiring, up-and-coming young women who are poised to dominate the game, not only from a statistical standpoint, but also from a viewership and attendance standpoint as well. And the numbers are pretty undeniable. Viewership is through the roof in the first week of the WNBA season. 3 WNBA games this year have drawn over 1 million viewers. Number one is the Fever versus Suns, 2.1 million. Another Fever game, for those who don't know, Caitlin Clark plays for the Fever, Indiana Fever. Fever versus Liberty, 1.7 million. Then you had the Sparks versus Aces, 1.3 million. From 2009 to 2023, the WNBA had 0 games with 1 million viewers. Now there's been 3 within the first week. Also, the attendance is up as well. Attendance has been an ongoing issue with the W for the past couple of years now, so much so that some of these teams used to occupy arenas that were also being occupied by big events, concerts, and in particular, some of their NBA counterparts. But unfortunately, due to them not being able to sell enough tickets, they had to relocate to smaller arenas. But now that Caitlin Clark is involved and a couple of other young, fantastic women as well, they've been able to sell enough tickets. The attendance has gone up for them to go back into the bigger arenas, and so they can sell even more tickets. That's great. Across the board, social media interaction is up as well, etc., etc. All in all, the Caitlin Clark effect is happening. It's happening in real time, but that's still not enough now, is it? It's just not enough. It never will be, in my humble opinion. But of course, still complaints. So a lot of this started with an article in LA Times where it is titled, "Caitlin Clark's marketing boom is celebrated, but also draws question of race and equity." In this article, Jemele Hill herself was quoted. This is what Jemele Hill had to say: "We will all be very naive if we didn't say race and her sexuality played a role in her popularity." Interesting. Now, just in case you didn't know, yes, there are white women in the WNBA, and yes, they are also straight as well. Just in case you didn't know. The way that they'll make it seem as if like she's the first ever to do it, but yeah. Just in case you didn't know. While so many people are happy for Caitlin's success, including players, this has had such an enormous impact on the game. There is a part of it that is a little problematic because of what it says about the worth and the marketability of other players who are already there. Not really, because we've seen something very similar to this throughout the course of the NBA. It's very interesting to me how every single time when people brought up, the correlation to the NBA to, WNBA, and how long it took the NBA to kind of get things going and but now all of a sudden, when the WNBA is effectively going through a very similar course of action where a player or two is having a massive influence on a level of popularity, that all of a sudden you can't see the correlation. All of a sudden that just goes through. You just can't see it, huh? Effectively, this is a very similar thing that happened in the NBA where Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came into the league and literally saved it. No one does not go back and discredit what Kareem and Jerry West and Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain did, but they do identify that unequivocally, especially on a level of business and entertainment value and viewership, unequivocally, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved the NBA. And it's okay to acknowledge it. Doesn't take anything away from Kareem, doesn't take anything away from Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, etc. Don't take anything away from them at all. But there was a problem. It needed solving. 2 players, though a lot of other players were there as well. No, don't want to take away from them. But there were 2 players who fixed that problem, and that was a viewership problem. And Caitlin Clark has a direct correlation to the level of viewership going up that is undeniable. She continues, "Caitlin fits a very comfortable narrative for a lot of people in the United States. She comes from the heartland. She's an amazing talent. She's also white, straight woman, right? There's not a lot of things that would make people feel uncomfortable with that person being successful." Now, I want to be clear. Do I believe her race has something to do with her popularity? Absolutely. I'm sure of it. That also happens in the opposite as well. I know some of you black people don't want to acknowledge that, but yes, there are people who do benefit from their race, white and black, the same way that, Serena Williams and Venus Williams, how us as black folks didn't give a damn about tennis, and all of a sudden we glued onto the TV watching tennis because they were black. Same thing goes with Tiger Woods as well. Nobody don't give a damn about golf, but when Tiger was playing, we glued to the TV just watching that thing. So sure, her race definitely takes a part of that, possibly her sexuality as well. She's a straight woman. I don't know. When I'm watching them, I don't give a damn who they banging off the court. Don't care. Who cares who they're in a relationship with? It's more about if they can hoop or not. And to me, that is the precedent, because regardless of what race Tiger Woods was, he was still a great golfer. And that's why, regardless of his race, regardless of where he came from, regardless of his background, regardless of his sexual preference, even regardless of him cheating on his wife or not, it didn't matter, because his talent ascended all. And that's why he was worth watching. Same thing with Venus and Serena Williams. It didn't matter their race, their background, all those things, though it may have made it easier for some people to get involved with the sport from a viewership standpoint. None of us would have gotten involved if they weren't good at the sport, because there were black people, and in particular black women, who attempted to play tennis before Venus and Serena. So we get it. No one is in denial that there isn't a subsection of athletes before Caitlin Clark, but being in denial about the talent that she is, playing a much larger role in the level of attention that is being brought to the league, is very disingenuous. And quite frankly, it's fucking lazy. Now, it doesn't stop there. Our good friends at The View, oh man, love me some View. Every single time I can watch me some. Can't get enough of it. Whoopi Goldberg and friends are going to explain to us their thoughts from a woman perspective on this article and some of the quotes and their stance on the W and how much has grown.
I think what Jamel Hill was saying is important. We need to identify communities that have not gotten the spotlight. Paige Buckers from UConn gave an amazing SB speech about 2 years ago, giving her award essentially to the black women that preceded her, saying although they won 80% of the awards that year, they got less than half of the media coverage. All of those things can be true. I think uniquely with Caitlin Clark, she cannot be reduced to much beyond her statistics, because a number is not bias. It just is what it is. But I think that she's also been good about addressing those who came before her. She knows that, like Maya Moore, her idol, came before her. She's been very reverent in saying it was all these women that opened it up and built the sport, and she's taking it a little further. It also can't be forgotten that she came from Iowa, and I say that not just as a proud Iowan. Caitlin Clark could have gone to a much better basketball program. She made a deliberate choice to build a program. A lot of times people talk about a GOAT being only if you have rings.
Let me say this about the whole, giving credit to the people before you. I'm going to say this. From individual standpoint, yes, I think Caitlin Clark should identify herself, the women who came before her, the groundwork that was paved, and I wholeheartedly believe that. But from a fan standpoint, no, they don't. And I'm gonna sound very harsh when I say this, but it's just the reality. A lot of people who are now getting involved with the WNBA, regardless if you all like it or not, are casual fans. And casual fans are not going to be well versed in the history of the sport, the same way that casual fans are not that well versed in the history of any sport. And normally when a player, a transcendent one that is very entertaining, enters a league, there is a fan base, a wave of fandom that follows them. And that wave of fan base is ignorant to everything that happens before them, because they only care about what's happening for the player that they want to root for. And this is something that we've seen with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. There's a fandom that followed them, and when they retired, they fell out of the NBA, and maybe some of them latched on and learned a little bit more, and also carried the wave through Michael Jordan. But a lot of them just stopped. Same thing happened with MJ. We all know about the fans that root and die for MJ night in and night out. Every single day on ESPN, we see it. Same thing happened with Kobe and Shaq. Same thing happened with LeBron James. We all know that. Same thing happened with Steph Curry. I mean, there are kids who grew up watching LeBron who act like everything that happened before him is irrelevant to them. They don't know anything about it. We can sit here and argue if it's right or wrong, but it's just a fact. It's a part of building a fan base that will continue to evolve as time progresses. And what the W's job is to make sure that they present a game that is entertaining enough while also informing the new audience that is now a part of the community of the past players. But those past players, if they get forgotten about, it is a part of the sacrifice that came along where you are today, because there are fans today. Matter of fact, there's NBA players today who don't really really know much about Oscar Robertson, who don't know much about Jerry West, who don't know much about Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, John Havlicek, who don't know much about Tiny Archibald, who don't know much about, or if anything, about Dave Bing. They don't. People like me, when it comes to the NBA and how much I just know beyond even my years of existing on this earth, we don't really exist. What it takes is a league to make sure that people like me, who at one point were casual fans, get entertained enough and invested enough to turn into lifelong fans. So even when someone like Kobe, who I dearly miss, when he retires, I'm still invested into the sport itself. But that's the W's job. That's just what it is. So unfortunately, the wave of fandom that's going to enter the league, yeah, they're not going to know about anything that happened before Caitlin Clark, but that's okay. That is okay. Reap the benefits, understand and hope that the league will continue to cherish everything that you've done before her, but that's not Caitlin Clark's fault, and it's certainly not her race fault or her sexual preference fault. It's not any of those things.
Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community. And we have to do something about that stigma in this country. I think that people have a problem with basketball playing women that are lesbians.
To believe that that's the reason why people aren't watching, and to believe that now that there's a straight white woman that's now involved and now people are entertained because she's straight and white, do you really believe people are packing out bigger arenas, seeing her from an even further distance because they can look down and see, they can barely see her and be like, oh, look at that straight white woman bring the ball up and do y'all really think that? Y'all do realize there are other straight white women in the league as well. And this is why this is all frustrating. Women have been complaining about this shit for years now. And the one time that we finally decide, hey, we are all going to support, we're going to do the thing that you all wanted us to do. Y'all wanted us to support. And also, I don't want to make it seem like it's just Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese also does the same thing. Juju, she's still in college, but when she comes out, it's going to be the same thing, because that's really the truth right there. So we're supporting. The truth of the matter is that regardless of how you cut it or slice it, bro, the women before her, a lot of those women that you all are trying to force on us, it's not that we didn't support them because they weren't white. It's not because they were lesbians. It's because they just didn't have a game that was exciting as Caitlin Clark. It was boring. I'm pretty sure there are a subsection of fandom that is watching her because she is white. I'm pretty sure there's a subsection of fandom that's also watching her because she is straight. But a much broader picture here is that people are watching her because she is talented. That's something that you would want. To even try to belittle what she's doing and bringing up race and sexual preference without acknowledging just how dominant she is and just shutting down all of this talk, to even introduce those type of conversations into what's happening right now, defeats the whole purpose of what you all have been wanting this entire time. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. Continue to do your thing. Charles Barkley and LeBron talked about this as well, and I further with their point. Continue to do what you're doing. I think that it is ridiculous that people are still getting behind this idea of belittling and tearing her down. Give her some time, give her some grace. At the end of the day, the point in which we're trying to get across to many of you all who continue to fight back against this is that it's a business. And if there are more people who are involved with this because she is white, which could be true, who cares? More people were involved with Magic Johnson because he was black. More people were involved because of Bill Russell because he was black. More people involved because of Jokic because he's Serbian, he's international. There's more people who are involved with some of these athletes because they're race. That is true. If more people involved because of her sexual preference, which I don't think that's the case, but who cares? That could also play a factor. Some people were involved with some other players because of their height, their size, etc., etc. But I think the bigger picture here is the reason why people are involved is because we all saw her play in college. We all saw how electrifying she is, and we all want to see a glimpse of it, and the numbers back that up as well. There have been plenty of other straight white women that's been in the league and nobody wasn't watching them anywhere near close to this. It wasn't moving the needle. So you would have to explain to us how we got this deep into the WNBA existing with all those other straight white women and nobody didn't give a damn. but you can't. But yo, that's just my thoughts. It's just very frustrating that if we don't support the way that y'all want us to support, then it's still not enough. It's never going to be enough. And I think to me, that's the most frustrating part about it. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.